Aemeath be free-to-play friendly? Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Aemeath is essentially right around the corner, and with that being said, we should discuss, is she going to be a free-to-play friendly unit or not? Well, there are a couple of things to indicate that she is definitely going to have options, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily expect her to be super free-to-play friendly, but I do think that she is going to be decently free-to-play friendly for a couple of reasons. But I would say that her accessibility, at least as of now, is questionable for a couple of reasons. The first thing that I will say is that at least weapons-wise, I don't think that she's going to be too cooked, because Emerald of Genesis is just a really good 5-star sword in general. It is a standard weapon, but a good majority of sword users are able to use EOG quite efficiently, because Emerald of Genesis is just simply a good weapon. So if her signature weapon is what you're concerned about, I actually don't think that's going to be her bottleneck. I actually think that weapons-wise, she's gonna be fine. So if you feel like you have teammates, which I'm gonna talk about in a bit, and the weapon is what you were worried about, I don't really think that's going to be the thing holding you back. Simply because Emerald of Genesis is a great weapon. Now, obviously, we're going to have to wait for Aemeath to officially come out and see how much better her signature weapon is actually going to be, but I would not be surprised if it wasn't astronomically better, simply because EOG is just a fairly balanced weapon. We're gonna have to see if the weapon ends up being super gimmicky or not. But if it's not like some crazy Frolova tier weapon increase, then I actually think that EOG is going to be perfectly fine. But in terms of her teammates, this is where I usually tend to discuss, is a character free-to-play friendly or not, because how accessible are her options, and can you easily jump into getting this character, even if you don't have a ton of options for them at your disposal already? Okay, so I will say this, and I mentioned this in a previous video, because she is a fusion character, she is definitely going to have team options. If options are what you're concerned about, and you've pulled for like any fusion unit, and you have Lupa as well, you are probably going to be fine. Or if you pulled for Wuthering Waves or Changli or something along those lines, and then you get Lupa along with Aemeath, you are going to be fine. And this is under the assumption that you did not pull for Linny or Mornier, or you're a new player that is just starting out, you want to get Aemeath, but you missed the 3.0 character banners. In such a case, I do think you have options if you have Lupa. But in terms of 4-star characters, the thing is, we don't know the specifics of Aemeath's kit officially yet, but I do not expect her to use somebody like Mortefi or Sanhua really well. I'm gonna say this, Mortefi will be usable, but only if you have Lupa, because then you're running a budget triple fusion team, and ultimately, although you can solve this problem by just getting Lupa, that character is going to be on the same half as Aemeath. So unless you're a newer player, because then you will definitely be able to get both because you have more than enough content that you can grind up. If you're somebody that has caught up to most of the content and you only have enough for one 5-star, then that is gonna put you in a bit of a precarious position. Once again, assuming that you don't have either of the Double Toon Break core team members. I'll say that if you have even just one of those teammates, I'm pretty sure that puts you in a much better position. As my guess is that Aemeath is probably going to utilize the 3.0 characters the best, considering that those two are very focused around Toon Break and we don't yet have a Toon Break-centric DPS, so there's a very high chance that she has something to do with it. And even if she has nothing to do with it, it's still likely that she's just going to be good with those characters in general because they're a very broken duo. And they're kind of the best in slot for a vast majority of DPSs in the game at the minute. But because this character is fusion, she does indeed grant herself access to those other unique fusion teams. So, because of that, I'll say this. It's kind of like a Yuno situation. Yuno is a fantastic meta character right now that doesn't need her signature weapon in order to perform well, but she does really want a 5-star teammate. She has plenty of options for 5-star teammates, but she does really want a 5-star teammate. So I think whether Aemeath is free-to-play friendly or not kind of depends on your own standard for a free-to-play friendly character in Wuthering Waves. How important is it that they need their signature weapon or not? And how important is it to you personally that a character is able to function fine without 5-star teammates? I don't expect it to be like a negative status character, but the thing is, I feel like most characters, unless they have negative status in them, they're just an extreme. They are so extreme that comparing regular characters to them is a little bit silly, because I don't think any character is ever going to be as bad as a negative status unit, because that archetype is just so inherently flawed and so inherently stuck in, you need a specific character to apply this specific thing, and if you don't have this character, then the kit of the DPS just isn't going to be fully taken advantage of. But I'm 99% sure that you've heard the spiel about negative status sucking like 50 times by now. You get the point. I don't think that it's going to be like that for Aemeath. I genuinely don't think that's going to be the case. And as long as she isn't a negative status unit, which I am pretty sure she is not going to be, then there is a chance that she's going to be able to use Linny, who is a very universal character that most free-to-plays should have pulled for anyway if they care about meta. If you care about meta, I understand some people would have skipped her if they just simply didn't like the character, but if you do care about getting the best characters possible, then that unit was such an insane investment. To the point where, while there is no such thing as a must-pull in this game, if I had to pick a group of characters to be must-pulls, Linny would be in that group. But new players and lost 50/50s are in fact a thing that have to be considered. Of course, Mornier is another character that was just an insane investment to make, no matter what type of player you are and no matter where you're currently at in your Wuthering Waves journey. So I would say that a grand majority of people have at least one of those characters. It is realistic that somebody might have skipped both. I do think there is a chance that someone might have skipped both, considering that, like I said, lost 50/50s, general character preferences, being a newer player, the list goes on. There are reasons as to why somebody wouldn't have these characters that are perfectly fine and reasonable. And if you're in such a position, my best advice to you is, if you don't have many Astrites on hand, and you really want to play Aemeath, but you're not sure if you're going to have a team for her or not, my best advice to you is, no matter what, just get Lupa and you'll be fine. I would say there are two different scenarios here. If you have Linny, I am pretty sure that Linny and Shorekeeper is going to be a perfectly good combo for you. If you didn't get Linny but you got Mornier, Lupa's going to be great. And if you don't have either of the 3.0 characters, Monofusion with Mortefi, or even using Changli or Brent Wuthering Waves, is also probably going to be viable, because fusion characters always work when Lupa is involved. The Wolf Lady single-handedly defines that attribute because of how inherently broken she is for that niche. She is so strong for it. So if you're concerned about not having teams, Lupa is basically a guaranteed way to have an Aemeath team, because no matter what, I can be pretty certain that if a fusion character comes out, Lupa is in some way, shape, or form gonna be involved. Attribute defining character. She is your safest bet in that regard. And to say that Aemeath is not free-to-play friendly feels a bit awkward, because she does seem like she's gonna have a lot of options, and I feel like the best way to put it is that if you've played the game for a couple of months, and you either have Lupa, or planning to get her on this upcoming banner, or were able to get at least one of the two 3.0 releases, you'll be fine. If you don't have either of the 3.0 releases, and you don't have the Wolf Lady, try and get Lupa to the best of your ability, because otherwise, I can't really see Aemeath having any specific 4-star teammate that would make her especially accessible. Now, I don't necessarily think that she is going to be weak without her premium team or anything, and that's in her favor, because I do generally think that Aemeath will have options, and she is not going to be completely restricted. So in that sense, she is not going to be completely free-to-play unfriendly. And weapons-wise, I just doubt that Kuro Games is going to make her weapon so much astronomically better than Emerald of Genesis. It could happen, to be fair. I wouldn't doubt it, considered that Cardathea's weapon was indeed a big increase over other weapons, but that was a very unique situation because she ended up being our first HP scaling DPS. And unless Aemeath ends up having some ridiculous wild scaling that we wouldn't expect, that probably won't be the case. EOG is just a very solid all-rounder weapon, so that's going to be fine. So all around, is she gonna be super duper free-to-play friendly? I don't think that she is like Augusta levels of free-to-play friendly, because I do think that having 4-star teammates is more valuable than not needing your signature weapon, at least in my opinion. Though granted, she could end up needing her signature weapon, we're gonna have to wait and see, but I just doubt it because EOG tends to be very strong. But I would be very hard-pressed to say that she's free-to-play unfriendly, because you have multiple answers to your problem. Either get the dog, or try and get one of the 3.0 units on their next rerun, something along those lines. And I think the fact that she doesn't really require those 3.0 units because she is a fusion character and because Lupa is a character that exists that is going to be rerunning alongside her is honestly pretty convenient. Now, I think if you're watching this video as a new player, you don't really have to panic because you have so much content ahead of you. You have like 3 weeks to form it all up. Just try and play Wuthering Waves as consistently as possible over the next couple of weeks, and I guarantee you, you're gonna have enough astrites to get both characters. Really, don't stress it, don't sweat it, you're going to be okay. And it should also be mentioned that while Wildfire Mark is a very good Broadblade on Lupa, you can still very much get away just fine by using the original standard Broadblade on her, and you're not going to be missing out on an astronomical amount of performance. Wildfire Mark is a much better weapon, true, but honestly, her sig to standard drop isn't anything too bad. So you could easily form a mono fusion team using Mortefi on Static Mist, Lupa on the standard Broadblade, and then you have Aemeath herself. So all around, she's not necessarily the most free-to-play friendly character around, because I just don't think that Sanhua or Mortefi is going to be able to do much for her on their own. We're gonna have to wait and see, but I doubt it. But I would be hard-pressed to say that she's super free-to-play unfriendly, because you have investment avenues available to you. Hopefully this video was able to tell you whether Aemeath is free-to-play friendly or not. This has been Juice, signing out, and you could also ignore all of that so that you can pull a character that literally splits apart the earth with the Exostrider. It's up to you.